You know, when we think about cosmic tyrants, we usually picture some giant with a laser, all about brute force. But what if the biggest threat out there wasn't physical at all? What if it was philosophical? Today, we're going to break down a completely different kind of villain, one who doesn't attack your body, but your very belief in meaning. A monster named Mongol. Okay, to really get Mongol, you have to wrap your head around this one single idea. He isn't just some tyrant who enforces the rules. No. He is the rules. He is the living, breathing embodiment of every no, every you can't, every single limitation that exists to crush your spirit. He is, quite literally, cosmic restriction made flesh. So let's meet the architect behind all this horror, Mongol, who is the ruler of the gladiatorial planet Warworld. And it's super important to get this straight right away. This is not the Mongol you might remember from back in the day. What we're looking at here is a fascinating and frankly terrifying evolution. On the left, you've got his father, Mongolhu, all about brute force and honestly kind of clumsy brutality. But his son, the one on the right, he's replaced all that with something way more dangerous, calculated ideological control. See, this new Mongol isn't just some brawler. He's a cunning strategist. The guy's a student of history. He's a master of Warworld's insane technology, and he's built this whole system that runs on pure psychological warfare. For a guy like him, violence is almost inefficient. It's a last resort. So, what's at the absolute core of his power? Well, it's not a laser beam or a super punch. Mongol's greatest weapon is a deeply corrosive philosophical concept. And that concept is called stasis. The best way to think about it is like gravity for your soul. It's this constant, passive, crushing pressure that smothers any desire to change, to grow, or to strive for anything better. It's the little voice made into a cosmic force that just says, stay where you are, forever. So he took this idea of stasis and used it to engineer the entire society of Warworld into what's been called an enforced utopia. It's a perfectly rigid system that requires zero passion, zero emotion, just absolute, unquestioning compliance. And this is where it gets really chilling. The psychological control was so complete, so insidious, that his enslaved subjects were actually indoctrinated to believe this horrifying dogma. I mean, just let that sink in. They embraced their own chains, totally convinced by his propaganda that their enslavement was, in fact, freedom. The ultimate human cost of living under his rule is something called spiritual coagulation. It sounds weird, but it's exactly what it sounds like. It's the process where a dynamic, flowing, human soul is literally frozen solid, crushed until it becomes a static, unchanging piece of dogma. And this quote, wow, it just paints this devastating picture of the final result. The very life force of his people is just annihilated. It's reduced to nothing more than a dry, dead powder. This isn't just controlling people, it's the complete erasure of their souls. And this, right here, is where it all clicks into place. Remember how we started? Mongol isn't just a tyrant imposing rules from a throne. He is the rules. He is the physical manifestation of stasis itself. All that abstract oppression made real and given a voice. But what's his real endgame here? I mean, why do all this? Well, it's not about a trap for the body. It's a trap for the soul. And this is where Mongol reveals his true genius and his true horror. So, ask yourself this. For a being like Mongol, what's a bigger win? Beating an opponent physically? Or proving that their entire worldview, everything they fight for, is fundamentally meaningless? So Mongol's whole plan, his nihilist gambit, isn't designed to kill the hero. It's designed to make the hero compromise his own morals. He wants to win by forcing them into a violation of restraint. He wants them to break their own rules. Because here's the thing, Mongol knew a hero was coming. He built his entire society as a test, just waiting for a new Übermensch, a being with immense, almost godlike power to show up and challenge him. Yeah, sure, he prepared physically with things like the fire of Olgrun and bathing his planet in red sun radiation, but honestly, those are just stage props for the real show. And here's the trap, laid out in 4 simple steps. 1, the hero arrives. 2, the hero sees the absolute, overwhelming horror of World and is faced with an impossible choice. How do you fix a world this broken? 3. Mongol wagers the hero will be tempted to take the easy path of the tyrant, to use absolute force to fix it all. And 4. If the hero gives in, if he does that, Mongol wins the argument. He proves that even the greatest hero, when faced with true chaos, will become a tyrant just like him. So he just waits. He sits on his throne, the physical embodiment of his own rigid, unbending philosophy. He's not a general preparing for battle. He's a nihilistic philosopher, patiently waiting for his enemy to prove his thesis correct. But was this perfect, nihilistic trap truly unbeatable? Well, there's a fascinating twist to this whole philosophical battle. Because the plan, it failed. Mongol's logic was in a twisted ways sound, but he didn't account for one thing. His defeat didn't just come from the hero. It came from the very people he had crushed into dust. The enslaved Philosians rose up, and in doing so, they shattered his entire argument. And this image just shows it all. It shows the one thing Mongol's cold logic could never, ever account for: the will to be free. His solidified dogma could, in fact, be shattered. It proved that hope can survive even inside the most perfectly engineered cage. So this leaves us with a final, really provocative question. Mongol's whole wager was that the hero would have to become a monster to win. But what happens to that twisted equation when the victims themselves refuse to let their savior become a tyrant? When they find their own strength and fight for their own liberation? It reframes the entire dilemma. A truly powerful idea to chew on.